Hey, it is Rick, 28mm RPG. I'm here once again. Hey, yeah, what's up, man? What's up? Lots of stuff is up. So, let's get into it. All right. Um, yeah, Wednesday nights tend to be now my role-playing game nights. in Oh man. Okay, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. So Wednesday nights are my game nights over at Wonderland. Now, Wonderland being our one of our stores here that we have that they do games, role playing games, and Wednesday tends to be the role playing night. So I showed up, met Spencer over there. He was creating a character. We are playing a Castles and Crusades game. So kind of like a simpler version of D&D. It's kind of like second edition with ascending armor class and a few other tweaks. So it's cool. It works for me. It works for a lot of people that just want to have like an archetype kind of background, as their character, and then they kind of fill out everything, as the character, which is, kind of the more important thing is how you run your character more so than what your character is. So, and that's the charm and coolness and variety that you're going to get in having full on role play in your games. And this is what I'm trying to promote at our local game store. And I'm seeing and there's a lot of games being played over at the at Wonderlands right now. I think there was at least 3 that were downstairs, 3 fairly large groups, ranging to between 6 to maybe 8 people, and then a game master. So it was some pretty. Oh, I did see that. Oh, I was just looking at the Discord. Sorry about that. Distracted there. But it seemed like most of them were playing the atypical way of way people play. And the wonderful thing about this game night we had last night was we got a new player. In fact, this player, he's about my son's age, and in his young 20s, and yeah, they hold on. Yeah, it's kind of similar. No, it wasn't you. It was something that Eli mentioned on a Discord here, and I'm going to come to that little bit of a thing that Eli's talking about, and I believe Dean was also making some mention to it. So I'd like to probably clarify it a little bit, just something. But yeah, they do magic. Magic is a big thing up here still. So it's still prevalent. It still seems to make the money for most of the stores nowadays, but that's when they go ahead and basically break up their packs and go ahead and sell individual cards on the internet. They tend to make a lot more money by sending out stuff through eBay and stuff like that. At least that's what I'm getting from the gist of at least one of the owners. So it seems to be a bit of an upswing on some of the what's it called, the Games Workshop stuff. So they've been selling a lot more models. So I don't know what's going on there. Some people still have a little bit of disposable income up here. Although, man, stuff is starting to get more and more expensive. As a guy that goes ahead and, picks up groceries once in a while to, like I do shopping sessions where I go downtown every second or third day and pick up something, because I'm usually, as a semi-retired guy, I'm usually making the meals, and the wife comes home at like between 3 and 6 o'clock, depending on how busy it is. And I usually have a meal prepared or something, or we go ahead and get something ordered. But man, it's groceries, luxuries. Yeah. I know, and just looking at the prices nowadays, it's getting crazy. I just got a notification from, as some of you may know, I'm working on my backyard and I'm trying to get a patio done. So I've laid out all the patio stones. I have everything anchored in and ready to go. I'm just waiting for these crazy spikes, which you put the 4x4 posts in, so you can make a fence post that sticks into the ground. So it's got this big long spike that you attach to the fence post, or you attach the fence post onto that. Once you pound it into the ground, gives you a nice base to work off of. I had ordered 16 of these fence post. What are they called? Spears or whatever. They're just shafts that go into the ground. And I waited a month for all these to come in. And Rona was saying, this is Rona. Okay, so this is a bad advertisement for Rona. if you're into like Home Depot and stuff like that, Rona ended up canceling my order after they told me that my order would be delayed for some time, expect it coming in July 9th. And then they sent me a message this morning that they've totally canceled my order and refunded me my money. I'm like, I'm stuck. I need to get my backyard back into, I have piles of dirt waiting to go into these bins that I'm creating with all these posts, and it's just, I'm trying to make a raised garden beds in the back there. I'm just like, So there's shortages everywhere going on of different things that are kind of like practical. And they're not coming up north, nor am I able to go ahead and order things to come up north. It's freaking bullshit. So I know how things can be with supply chains and stuff like that, and trying to get stuff done, and it's stuff that drives you crazy. But anyways, there doesn't seem to be any shortage of magic cards, though. So but as far as trying to get your lawn and stuff, it's just nuts. Medicinal herbs, expensive. Okay, if you're going to buy through a dispensary here, they're kind of like just like a liquor store, only for the other stuff. If you're part, this is the thing. A lot of companies up here push you to a subscription service, meaning a subscription to their membership, and then they give you a reduced price. So if we're talking something like Canna Cabana or something like that, it's one of the bigger units up here. You're looking at an ounce being about between $65 to $140, depending on what kind of grade of weed that you're getting, or herbal medicine you're getting. Okay, this is not a kid friendly. Okay, and just to let you know, that's kind of what you're looking at. What else do we have here? Are they waist high? Okay, so these posts I'm putting in are going to be like okay, so the actual bottom part is like a little metal frame, so you can put your post into it, and then you put the screws in, and it makes your post stand up straight. So this metal frame has a spike on the bottom, you stick into the ground. Okay, so just so you guys get a gist of what's going on. So I got to put in a series of all these spikes to make these raised garden beds. And so I'm making the posts that stick up out from that spike onwards to be about 2 feet high, because my wife doesn't want to be doing stuff while she's doing her gardening and stuff. So that's what I'm doing. What will look like. I don't. Oh, I have a picture. Okay, let me go ahead and bring it up here. Dismiss that. Although it'll be kind of small, but I'll show a close up here. Get my pictures. Wow, I got lots of pictures of me enjoying the great outdoors out here. It's crazy. I got pictures of me and my kids. Okay, so this was me starting to get all that stuff going. So you're looking off of my deck, which I had made it half the size. This deck used to extend out even further. You're looking from basically the door of my house looking out back. So, and in the picture, I'm putting together all the bricks, and that is what she looks like, kind of like now. But I did do a little bit more. But there's a big pile of dirt in front of my Mazda there in the background, and it just makes me sad. I don't have these posts because these posts are supposed to create a like an shape around this side and an L shape around the other side to encompass my little patio area, and that's where those raised beds will be. They'll be like a 2 feet wide, 2 feet high, and they'll be like an L shape to kind of corral the area. Yeah. Weed dash. I don't know. I've never. I usually just I just show up to those places and pick up something. My wife is more into smoking that stuff than me. I smoke it once in a while. I'll smoke it with her. But kids, drugs are bad. We're just saying that. Okay. Yeah, I know. I got these nice pavers. They came from Kakwa Stone up here. Kakwa, strangely enough, was a place that we used to supply stone from back in BC when I worked for a rock yard, and we would supply some stone to Kakwa every once in a while. Back in 2010, 2012, I used to work for a rock yard, splitting up rocks and stuff like that, and using chisels and a sledgehammer or a little mini sledgehammer. I would go ahead and fracture up rocks, and we'd be cutting it up and turning it into cool stuff. Oh no! Okay, here comes some. Okay, are you going to play in Crispy's actual play of Condor DM's game he released? I heard about this thing. I'm not too sure what's. I haven't gotten in I don't think I've seen a personal invite yet here on it, so not sure. But we'll see what happens. Here are the states pavers are very expensive. Yeah, they can be. That lot that you've seen in the background there was about $2,000 worth of paver stones. So that's basically roughly a 16 by 13, roughly, is what I kind of measured out. So, yeah. What is Crispy up to? Crispy's been in my sci-fi game on Mondays, so check that out. His live stream. He introduced his new character to us this week, this last Monday. So yeah. And that's Canadian dollars, of course. So a Canadian dollar is probably about devalued to about 60% of the US dollar. So take 40% and add it, and take 40% off that price. So you might be able to get around to a US distinction on there. So where we pay 1,000 in Canada, you would probably pay about six to 700 in the States. So just to give you a cross reference there. And what is that? A fish? A blue fish? Yeah. Well. Okay, but anyways, I did some cool stuff. I got ready for my group for roleplay, and I put together a little handout. It kind of looks like this is the old version. It kind of looks like this, but I will show you it. I'm not too sure if this might interest. If you guys want me to go ahead and post it up on the interweb, on our Discord, then I can. So let me just go ahead and add it to stage here. Yay! I got a little handout now on how to roleplay in 4D. So it comes in page 1 and page 2, just so you know, okay? Let's get this so everybody can read. So this is what I put together. These are rules to keep good manners in play. No devices at the table. Phones and distraction. So I give the basic gist of the way the game is played. Now you notice that most game masters never give you this information. They'll give you. I noticed this with like the guy Earth Moat. I don't know if you guys have ever watched Earth Moat's stuff. Basically, it's spelled Earth Moat in one word. And he gets into some really cool, clever, ideas of how to build a campaign and blah, 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 and how to immerse your players and blah, blah, blah. But a lot of these guys speak their platitudes. I'm going to use that Shauna word, the platitudes. And but they don't actually give you the they don't give you the meat and potatoes on how it's done. They don't actually describe how you convey that information to the players. Do you give them 10 pages of exposition? Do you give are you giving them a manuscript that you hand over? Here, if you want to play my game, read volume 1 and 2 of Anacolapsis, and you will understand exactly how. No, yeah, a lot of people haven't heard of them, so it's but I might do a video on some people's ideas and responses and stuff like that, and give my take. One of the Discord things that I was mentioning, Eli was mentioning, was something that I'm kind of partial to covering today as well, if we can get to it. But here I go ahead and describe everything on what the active player, what your responsibilities as the active player is, and what was cool is because this new player had never played D&D ever before in his life, but he had a D&D. He had like the new 2025 version of the book, and young guy, in his early 20s. Same age as my young son, and you don't want to do that. But he came in, and I started explaining this to him, and he was, I absolutely get this, and we started going back and forth, and he was like, I'm like, this kid's gonna be my best player ever, okay? Corey, if you're watching, I gave Corey my YouTube, so he ended up adding me as a subscriber, as a subscriber. So that's cool, and I guess he might be starting to watch some stuff. So youngster, you're impressing me with your parlay back and forth with me, and we had a good talk, and he totally understood. He had absolutely no questions when he read this over. I explained everything, like giving you alternate ways to ask. You're never supposed to ask a GM questions, and a lot of people will go and freak out about it. But no, just use your actions. So I give you, instead of saying this, say this. You're giving me so much more information. What are you telling me here? What is above me is your question, okay? If a player asks what is above me, this gives me more information. I look up, torch in hand. He's telling me how he's going to use the torch, torch in hand. I'm lighting it with the torch. I'm going to see basically 10 feet, or 20 feet in front, whatever it is. And that's all I'm going to see. And, I can respond properly. But if he just looks up, what darkness? If you're looking up with a torch, you're making it, you're emphasizing how you're doing it. You're giving the players more information. Oh, you're carrying a torch now. Oh, you're doing this. Okay. This is information that players relay, and it becomes part of where you listen. You're going to be adding to the narrative, and you keep the circle going. Past the item, genre cube, whatever you have that you're passing around, talking stick, and the players, definitely sit back, listen. Players, listen. Don't sit there on your phone and stuff like that. And you'll learn so much about your fellow players. You'll interact with them more. Yeah, and that's the key, is that he has no bad habits to unlearn, and that's great. So I give the the solution here is let the players carry on everything that is player end as far as the game goes. You don't move them around. You don't make them do the things. You don't make them do. You got to get yourselves out of that kind of mindset. And for those that are kind of still stuck in that 1D, 2D retrospective over role play, it's not your fault. It's just the way that you've been trained. And I've seen players go in trying to be freewheeling. I've been one of those too, and just get kind of dashed down and trampled on, saying that's not the way we play here, and you just end up becoming just the person that just attends just to go ahead and roll the dice. That's it. You're just a human die roller. Doesn't matter what you say, to the game master. He's going to decide for you what the proper thing is going to be. So I ended up adding the rules for the GM on the other side of the paper here. So I give a layout on on how you expect me to see your imagination, especially with the theater of the mind. For me, it's a very it's a very open concept. For me, I give the items in the room. You're going to have a number of things that you can interact with within that action. So I try to stipulate things that you can get to within your action, okay? Because the players don't want to know what the things are that'll take 2 actions to get to, or perhaps maybe they have enough light in the area that they can see beyond that. But you have to explicitly say that, what is vicinity, the area around you, and what is beyond the vicinity, which will take more than 1 action to get to. And with your descriptions, go very light. I'm sketching the scene. Sketch it like a person does when they draw out something. They're just doing, like scribbles to kind of get the idea. We have clouds up here. We have trees down here. We have, a trail, and we have, bushes and, undergrowth and scrub and mushrooms and, flora, fauna, that sort of thing. You let the player's imagination, flourish from there. Now they're seeing, what they see in their head. So what you see in your head as a game master, don't ever rely on that. It's what the player perceives in the game. That way you have a smoother way of disregarding any kind of issues, kind of like what we had in the game that we were playing on Monday with Crispy, which was the Traveler game. We did have like a strange kind of thing where it was who was inside the airlock, who was outside the airlock. That wasn't really discussed, but it was evident through the interaction of the players that was worked out without even having to go out of character or anything. It was just I was just listening to the players, and I knew Zonalar was still in the airlock, and I knew, people had been, the NPC had, gotten out or something like that, and I can't remember 100% of what that was a killer game session that we had. It was a lot of fun, and a lot of intense, inter player dynamics going on, and I just let it go. I'm not, I'm not going to steer people anywhere. I just listen to what they say, where they are, and that's where they are. I don't try to push them. Oh no, you are past the arrow. No, Zonalar knew where he was, and he knows that the doors closed up, and he was the last one left behind, and in the airlock, kind of trapped between the two doors, basically. So, he knew he was still in peril, and he was still negotiating, and the other NPC was trying to help, by peeking around the side of the door, and getting ready to blast anyone who was going to decide that that their options weren't the correct ones. But it was an interesting session, and people have to realize, that what you are saying may not translate exactly to what's going on in the player's head, but it is not a problem. That is not a problem. Just listen to what the player is saying, and abide by that. That's all I have to say to if you ever have a thing that where's the make sure you read the rules. Yeah. Well, this is for just notes on just how to role play, how to do the act of role play. So that one is yeah, and this one too. Yeah, that's right. But this is for everybody that's inquiring here, right? This is, I have this here. When I get into my session 0, that's when I get into, okay, these are the rules that we're going to use, and then we go into what kind of a thing, what are you imagining this whole series that we're going to put together? What do you imagine it as a movie like? Do you imagine it like Lord of the Rings? Do you imagine it like maybe Elden Ring kind of thingy going on? And in this case, it was like we were coming up with some cool ideas. And remember, I missed that Thursday because I told you guys I was having like a Kundalini kind of thing where I had my first session 0 with the group. And of course, we had new players, so we had to kind of session 0 those guys in, right? But at that time, I was like, they had bombarded me with some really cool ideas, like implementing some ideas from Elden Ring, some ideas. I was like, oh, this almost like, because Elden Ring kind of reminds me of the old Tartarian buildings and stuff that you would see, in kind of like the Asia Minor kind of region of the world. Carvings and stuff within their buildings, and there would be like gargoyles and stuff. Like really, really cool and bizarre statues and stuff. And it's kind of like, and this is why I was like, that's why I have these books here, like Godfrey Higgins and stuff like that. If you are a person that's looking for some great information on how to, on some ideas for, your role playing games that you want to do something that's more like an Earth kind of, Earth kind of cultural. I mean, this is all historic kind of, hermetism kind of, it all kind of lines up in that, but it talks about cyclopses and the fairy folk. It gets into all that kind of stuff. And there's like 3 volumes here of just the coolest shit that you can ever hear from somebody's imagination from what, I don't know, the 1800s or something. I can't remember how long that was when that was written. But there is some really cool, you got to read, you got to go ahead and, look up movies and stuff, and you find some really cool ideas. But this kind of hit like oh, I know what I'm going to do. So I started working on kind of like a Tartarian kind of a backdrop for this game. And I was like, yeah, I could bring in, the giants, the Nephilim and that kind of stuff, the Raphaelim, or, there's all kinds of, giants that are described, the Cyclops, the Titans and stuff like that. And, this world is based, around the, Dark Ages, the 600-700s. Nobody knows really what year it is at this time, because it's chaos is reigning around, the fall of the Roman Empire and stuff, and there's all sorts of things going on in on the Silk Road, the Imperial Road to to the Chinese and all that, but there's so much cool stuff that you can bring in from the Turkestan and Uzbekistan and all that kind of stuff, that area, Armenia, Georgia, that kind of area between the Black Sea and Caspian Sea, and you got the Mount Ararat and stuff like that. You have all these ruins and stuff that have been like uncovered there, the Göbekli Tepe and all these kind of mixture of Greek, Persian influenced architecture and some Vedic as well. So you're getting a little bit of the Hindu myths as well. So there's this big, massive, sweep of different kinds of religious philosophy that spreads across this, and there is so much, butting of heads going on in this area. It's kind of like a barbaric region up there too, where the Mongols come from, and then you've got like these mini kingdoms which are ruled by the great ones. These it's an empire of larger beings that believe in their power. It comes from a supernatural force and everything, and you could really get some good bad guy kind of vibes out of some of these characters by just delving into the powerful ones that they worship and stuff like that. So just basing it on some of these kind of, and I'm using some terminologies that are kind of slightly askewed, so I'm not using a lot, I'm not using the actual deities' names and some of these things. I'm kind of, and same with the towns and names of the cities and stuff like that, and the areas in there. I've switched it up a little bit here to make it not so apparent that I'm basing it off of the Asia Minor area. So, roughly, I went ahead and started sketching out kind of roughly a map area. Okay, this is sketch. I'm going to end up putting this into, like, I'm going to be using a few programs to go ahead and refine the map itself. But we get to one of my more, this is where they are starting, and this is the lands of Armenia, or the lands of Armen. And so I've got the Obsidian Sea up here instead of the Black Sea. And I'm kind of naming a few areas, you know, close to what they are in real world, but not. I mean, you see Mosul is down here, and this is off of the Tigris River. And of course, I've got the Euphrates as well over here, you know, and stuff like that. So, you know, this is a very, very rich area here of like such phenomenal like folklore and everything. And I mean, you could really dig into a lot of history books and dig up some really interesting things about this area, like the giant statues and stuff in some of if you watch videos on, you know, like Siberian folklore, mysterious places in Siberia or Asia Minor, stuff like that, and I was like coming up with all these, you know, good guys, bad guys, you know, different NPCs, and just coming up with just, you know, logical, you know, plots that they, or, you know, plans that they would have, you know, that they would do. And which I'm going to lead on to what should you prep with as far as, you know, Eli was asking on the forum there, or mentioning on the forum. He had a rundown on how he would do it. He was just kind of, you know, giving his ideas out there, and people were you know, responding to it. And I'll get into that a little bit more deeper. But as far as the handout here, let's get back to that again. Yeah, I also have the rules for the GM, so fairly easy. If guys want a copy of it, I'll go ahead and post it up onto the Discord. But yeah, that's basically it for that thing. But I decided I may as well have some sort of a sheet for people to, you know, kind of reflect on how to role play, because nobody ever covers that. You just do random shit, I guess. You know, we talk about random stuff. It kind of reminds me of when you go to, I mean, I would rather go to a bar and yak with my friends at a bar. You know, at least I'll be eating, you know, whatever bar food is there. I'll drink my bar drink and I'll enjoy talking bar stuff with my bar friends, even though we're at a bar. That's better than being in a D&D game with people that you got to talk bar room kind of stuff, movies, that sort of stuff, and waste time by barely playing a game. Barely. That's what you see on YouTube. I mean, you just have to call it out for what it is. Anyways, Sunday ends up being my day for going to is my day for going to the game store once again, and we end up playing board games for that night. So, and spending more time with Spencer. You know him as Ismail, or the Dispenser Show on YouTube, and you know, he's been in our group for quite some time. He is still learning much, and you know, learning to apply 4D to his game. So and he's becoming better and better at it. You know, just like it's like anybody else here is, you know, you got to practice it in order to, you know, come up with, you know, your own way of applying 4D as a character. You know, because not only do you embrace the techniques that we show you, you're also learning how to break that down in your head on how that applies to your character. And, you know, you're discovering how this all integrates together, and the players feed off of each other in this 4D game. So it's something that I feel strongly that I think a lot of players should be trying this, because it is a vast improvement from, sitting there for 8 hours and getting maybe about half an hour worth of game done, where we will do 2 hours of a game and have stuff done more than 2 of their 8-hour sessions. So that is a good thing. I hate these things that pop up. I got little pop-ups showing up here on Twitter. So that's going on. Oh no, that's Twitch. Sorry, there's a little guy blasting me on Twitch. Wonderful robots, AI. Don't you love it? So yeah. Family tabletop. He posted a video. Let's see if I can bring it up. Let me just double check before I go ahead and blast you guys with this, that I'm going to get a no commercial. Okay, thank you. All right, let me go ahead and get rid of this here. We remove the former. And we will present shared screen and share on. What's going on? Are we sharing? There we go. There we go. I thought this was a very interesting video. So let's go ahead and investigate what he's saying. Why the hell is this your forever game? Well, we're gonna find out. Let's check it out.
A forever game. And why the heck is this game so many people's forever game? Two questions. Let me get to the second one first.
Okay, so he's holding in his hands. Okay, he's holding in his hands here a copy of Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition. So this, to be honestly, was my to-go-to game back in the, I guess, the 80s. Everybody was kind of converting to 2nd edition. Some of them were die-hard 1st edition kind of people. So you've seen a lot of that back then. Just the same as what you had today, right? You got a bunch of people that want to play, the 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition, whatever. This had the THAC0. At the time, THAC0 was a big step up from okay, so let me put this in perspective. You go back into like the chainmail or the Holmes era of playing D&D, and that was like looking up columns and seeing what category your weapon was in and all that kind of stuff, right? So it was a little different than what 1st edition, 2nd edition was. 1st edition ended up, kind of, giving you a what is it called? A graph chart. So you'll have these columns, underneath the armor classes, and then you'll have your hit dice, and on the other side. So then you would go ahead and cross-reference, to see what it takes to hit. So what THAC0 did was eliminate the graph and made it more of just a math equation, basically. It simplified it to a math equation, which meant you didn't have to start referring to charts anymore, and which is a bonus. because now you're no longer having to go ahead and cross-reference things and remember stuff. And every character is different compared to the, everybody's got a different hit. So it becomes quite a task to kind of keep that remembering what it is for Joe to hit the Medusa as compared to Jill hitting the Medusa, and all their advantages, disadvantages, or whatever they got. So I did thumb up this video because I thought it brings me to think what my favorite forever game is, but I will get into that real quick. So, but yeah, second edition, I could see the appeal of why it was cool, where it was, but for me, once Castles and Crusades came into being, it was basically second edition, except you have an ascending armor class now, so it's much more easy. It's basically what it's written down. it's easy. It's easy, and all the variables are laid out on the player end now. So they're base to hit, the modifiers, all the attribute bonuses, all that kind of stuff, or if they're flanking, that sort of stuff, stuff that you're adding on. That can be added later. So you do have that baseline AC, which in Castles and Crusades makes it a little bit more efficient than the second edition. But as far as between the two, I would definitely play Castles and Crusades now. But if Castles and Crusades never existed, yeah, then of course going with second edition would have been my go-to D&D. Some people, it's your choice. For me, it's that's what it is. It's a lot easier for a lot of people to go just to look at a number and know what it is that's your target. I mean, it's pretty darn simple. Whereas THAC0, now you have to kind of reverse your brain into realizing that lower numbers are better or on armor class because that's the way it was made, from first edition. Now you don't have that kind of issue. It's just an additive number instead of being a subtractive to an additive. It just makes it easier for everyone to grok it. I should go ahead and put a little pop up when I say grok, so makes a big noise. I'll do that one day. I have to be more entertaining with my live streams, I guess. I mean, we got to get more than just 20 people in here, right? I mean, it's cool. It's awesome that we have 20 people watching this, and yeah, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all of the all the eyeballs on this video. Truly do. If if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. I'm not the jerk that some people make me out to be. I'm actually pretty cool, and if you got bad things to say, I expect you to write out at least a 3-page essay in the comment section, please. The longer the better. Thank you. Let's go on to what family tabletop says here.
What is it about this edition? I actually don't understand it. Why? It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I didn't hurt the second edition D&D book.
It's okay.
I promise.
You can hurt it all you want.
What is it about second edition AD&D that makes it a forever game for people? When I a novice TTRPG whatever fan look at that game system, I don't understand. I'm not getting it. It's kind of simple. It's not very complex. The character building is, and so I don't understand.
Okay. let me break this down. All right. Of course, you might not have, gone through the chainmail stage, the home stage, or the first edition stage. Okay, so as far as my point of view, this was a massive improvement. As far as some of the mechanics went. So cleaning it up and everything. That's why it was kind of the go-to. Second off, the reason why we have more of a simplistic, more of a I don't know, what would you say, like a trope? A trope. So you have a trope that you play. You are going to be a paladin or a ranger or a fighter or a wizard or there might be different, like a crusader, stuff like that. There might be additional kind of extra. I can't remember all of the classes. You're going to have your typical priest. You're going to have your druids. There is a lot of variety of different kind of tropes. Now the reason why I call them tropes is because you have to kind of look at it that way instead of looking at it as a class of options. Okay, you're playing a trope. Your options come in the way that you play the game. You are defined by the things that you find. So let's take, for example, my good old former character, Valgar Bloodflight, Warrior of Chaos, and other breakfast cereals. He started off as a mercenary, first-level mercenary, fresh off of a boat. He was a sailor, and he thought he'd be a sellsword on land. He hooked his big sword, and now he's going off. He's going to do the big things. He's a typical fighter, okay? But big, strong guy. I think I had like 1848 strength, like in the brackets, 48%. I think my dexterity was 16. My intelligence was like 12. My wisdom was about 10. My constitution was like 15, I think it was. My charisma was 13. Okay, so I had some bonuses, so now you're kind of getting a sense of my character through the bonuses. I'm big, strong, I'm average as far as intelligence and stuff goes. So I'm trying to make my way in through life by joining a party. I hear that there's this war going on between elves and humans and stuff. So as I adventure, I joined this group, and I'm joining the humans first because I'm a human. Okay, so I'm joining this band of humans, and he's being led by this guy named Karn. And Karn ain't too nice of a guy. Karn is kind of a badass, actually. And when I say badass, I mean not only in fighting, he is a badass, as in he just hates elves. And I believe he was somehow connected to the Baron of this realm, and the Baron, I don't know, there was something going on where some portion of the court was trying to get rid of the elves and the demi-humans out of this land. I realized where I was sitting at with this guy going, okay, well, these elves don't seem to be, like they're gathering off the distance there, and they send their people to talk to us, and we send our people to talk to them, so we meet in the middle. I'm like getting a sense that what we're being told in our RPG world is not exactly, something. It's not kosher what's going on here. There's some sort of shenanigery going on here, and these elves, these demi-humans, do not sound like they are the people that kidnapped the Baron's daughter. And this was the quest, was basically find the Baron's daughter. It was rumored that she had been abducted by these slavers. But then we found out that the slavers were working in cahoots with part of the Baron's, group. They were kind of underhanding the Baron. for their own means. We found that later, but in the meantime, okay, these demi-humans don't, and in fact, they are looking for the Baron's daughter themselves in order to kind of say, hey, we're with you. We want to find the princess, the Baron's daughter. So this was the idea, but along the way, I ended up, finding, in one cavern, I ended up finding some boots of levitation. So I ended up, putting these on my character, and so now I could levitate up. Next, we ended up getting into this big fight with the slavers, an underground city kind of idea. I think he was using a lot of the slavers kind of ideas off of the Slaver series in D&D. And, just the gist. He was very good at making shit up on the fly. He's, Ted was awesome at that. And he held a lot of the 4D principles. Nobody spoke out of character in our group. And that alone really helped in defeating a lot of, this crosstalk and stuff. So our game sessions went rather fast, and we played if we played a 5 to 6 hour session, it was exhausting because you're just in character all the time. So anyways, now I've got this character. He's got the boots of levitation. He goes underground, ends up finding the Baron's daughter, and ends up grabbing an item out of the that was hidden in an underground next to the sea kind of thing, and the sea, the secret thing would open up and the ship would ride out into the ocean kind of thing. That was kind of like what was going on with this. But on the ship, the former captain had left a couple of legacy items, one being a necklace and the other one being his greatsword. So, anyways, me being the fighter in the group, I was granted the greatsword. So I took the greatsword, and it ended up being a sword of flame with a fire tongue. So, then, since they thought that the amulet goes kind of with the sword because of the way it looked and everything, well, you may as well take the amulet too, right? So as soon as Valgar puts on the amulet, his personality changes. He ends up rolling for an insanity roll, and it changes his character entirely. So instead of being neutral good, he becomes chaotic neutral. And inflicted with, having to an alcoholism situation. So now you got this big, monstrous, fighter with boots of levitation, a flaming sword, a change in attitude now, right? And amongst the other items, he ends up getting a ring of featherfall. Now think of this, a ring of featherfall and boots of levitation, chaotic neutral, and now a flaming sword. So I am an instrument of destruction now that is almost unstoppable in my endeavors to get in, get shit done, and get out real fast, because my escape routes could be anywhere. I could just leap off of a wall, off the castle, and then float down. Or, I could, simply, look, a tower? Well, we need to get up this tower. Boots of levitation, straight up. So, your character ends up being defined by not just his trope, but you are also being influenced by the items that you gain. Now, these items, I had no desire to ever get rid of any of these. Even the cursed necklace was kind of like it was just it just allowed my character to flow more freely and be more, in the mindset of being chaotic. So, hey, Phil, Phil, my favorite. He's my favorite guy that I would play with, because he plays a good competitive butting head type player. It would have been awesome for him to play in this game with Valgar, but there was a player that played like he did, and he didn't like my character at all. In fact, he was a priest, and he was trying to convince the Baron that I was the bad guy. And so I ended up having to fight Baron's men all the time. And of course, me being chaotic neutral now and causing chaos. And I had a friend who was a dwarf, and it played by another player character. This player would come in. He would visit the Okanagan every once in a while. So every couple of times during the summer when he would come down and visit, we would end up having the game with his character. His character's name was Magnus, I believe it was. He was like this torquey dwarf that had strength that rivaled mine as well. And they would get into the taverns and do the chicken fights. Only Valgar would be on top. The big 6'6" guy would be on top of the dwarf, and the dwarf would be carrying him around. We would do our chicken fights that way. So, that was our thing. There was great love back and forth, the 4D love. But some people really take being competitive, like as a headbutting against another character, a little too much. And Dean, the other player that was playing the priest that was against my character, kind of took a lot of things to heart when I'm like, dude, I'm still me. Don't take what I'm being, chaotic neutral Valgar here. I have to play my character. So, but it's cool to have people like Phil, and the rest of our group. We don't take any of this, as an affront to ourselves. So if Phil's being mean to my character, I think that's the coolest shit ever. It just drives the entire group dynamic in such a twist that it just makes it interesting. I love stuff like the Samurai 7 or the Magnificent Seven, Seven Samurai story. It's all the same, with the characters that the farmers go out and find these Ronin to go ahead and help them fight the bandits on their land, and they have barely a penny to their name, and they get 7 of these Ronin to help them, and they're all like, some of them are pretty close to bandits themselves, but they think, maybe they can do some good in the world, maybe for once. So a couple of the Ronin convince the rest of the Ronin to go along. Maybe they'll seek their fortune somehow in this endeavor. I mean, it leads into a couple of them dying and stuff like that. But I'll leave that up to playing to watching that yourself. It's usually a fairly good standard kind of arc, of redemption story with some of the characters, like the samurais themselves, because you had some really mean ones in there as well as some more good-hearted characters, and yeah. I mean, why Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can do that too. Like I'll get into the mindset, the asshole mindset or the nice guy mindset and stuff like that. It's cool to kind of, I don't know about you, but I do go through like a mind practice. Like I'll think in the terms of because usually it's when I'm writing stuff down and I got a character idea for an NPC. So I'll try to think of what I would be thinking of if I was in the shoes of this character and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's freeing. You're doing the things that you would not normally do as a human being. So, and that's key. You as a player are not the character. I'm Rick. You meet me on the street and you can yak with me all day, because I would be like, I'd go on into different topics and stuff. I'll talk philosophy and get into esoteric kind of stuff, esoteric, Jungian, and into whatever a person wants to talk about. I'm very open with talking about them, and not trying to be, condescending with them or anything like that. I'll feign a condescending, kind of like what I did with the original, how to role play, video that I had, which I still have to do the game master end on how to role play on that. But I'll play a character just to be a character, and it's just cool, it's just cool to play a character, and develop with it, because as you're playing, you're getting new stuff, and your items tend to kind of help define and steer your character in certain ways. What would I have been if I didn't have a flaming sword or the boots of levitation? Well, I would have a ring of featherfall and maybe some big ass sword of some form. Good. And I would still be trying to find the Baron's daughter, blah blah blah. So it defines a lot what your items are on your character. So when you get into this old version of D&D, also have to remember that you're coming off of a game system that rewards money instead of so you gain most of your experience through the money, the wealth you gain, and so your items count for something. They give you more powers. They give you certain little things that you can use. Okay? And if you base all this stuff instead on feats and everything, well, then you're kind of more of a construct of the paperwork then. You're reaching for these certain bonuses that you get, which are atypical from that trope that you're playing. So it'll be a trope with a bunch of feats attached onto it. That would be like third or fourth edition. So now it's been replaced by these feats. So now you get these little powers. You had some little powers that would show up in second edition, but it was very linear. It was kind of linear. You had to make your if you define that your fighter has a specialization in a weapon, okay, that's going to be one of his kind of feat kind of things in second edition. So when you decide that that weapon is going to be a flail, is it going to be a great sword? Is it going to be a great bow? Whatever that, your options are laid out in that kind of context instead. The type of weapon that you pick. What is your specialty? You got to be very mindful of getting a specialty is kind of it's it's a thing that you'll pick. You might pick another specialty later on if you get up high enough into character class, into your levels. And yeah, you fill it out more, but you have to kind of look at the mindset of what we had before, which was first edition homes and chainmail, even further back. And the way I see you seeing it is basically from second edition onwards. So all you're seeing is a massive improvements, but also a total change in how the game is played too. Now, instead of being a lot of theater of the mind, which was first and second edition, it was very. I played way more theater of the mind than we played with minis, and these were with guys that had lots of minis and stuff. We would just we wouldn't use the miniatures at all, so. That wasn't important to us. We just played the characters. We played the action. We imagined the things happening. We just did what we did. Nowadays, like when I got into that new group from coming back into role playing back in 2007-ish. I started playing Castles and Crusade because these guys were saying, well, this is as close as you're going to get to second edition with the benefits of having these, these rules that clean things up a little bit. So I was like, okay, cool, awesome. I joined them. Oh, I got to go ahead and buy this virtual tabletop. Okay, so I got a virtual tabletop. It was Fantasy Grounds at the time. So the guys were playing through. And we were basically playing a move the chits along in the corridors game. So somewhere along from second edition to third edition, everything changed to board game. So it became more of a board game than a role-playing game. So you weren't using the theater of the mind. A lot of people were investing in other things, like you have your Photoshop, all that kind of stuff. There's people doing different maps, and they're making money selling maps, and they're selling money making miniatures. I make money by painting miniatures, so I'll paint a whole box of something back there and, sell it for like 10 times the price, to somebody else, because I put all the work into detailing the characters and stuff like that. It's a piece of artwork after that, but anyways, board gaming kind of changed the whole thing to role playing. So it really kind of hopped people into these little niches of skills. So you'll have guys that make maps. You'll have guys that make you do have guys that do portraits and stuff. You always had that, but now you have the guys that make maps now, and people that make extra monsters and stuff, so you'll have all these little products being propped up and people are selling stuff. And that started a whole kind of thing going. It got crazy. So, cool. Awesome. I'm glad it could be of service to, people, and I'm glad that you like that one. Yeah, hobbyists. So, you have guys making their own rule sets, stuff like that. It started a whole, it started a whole new bunch of entrepreneurial things that people can get into. You could actually, play your game and possibly make a little bit of money on the side or something, pawn your stuff to people through YouTube, that sort of thing. And it made money for a few people. Some people, like Runehammer. Look at what he's done with his artwork and making these little cards for people. Instead of having rooms or cards and all that stuff, the index card system and all that kind of thing. That's very clever, ingenious, revolutionary in its own right. And it did what people started coming up with these cool things. I mean, it's not role play. It's not, it's just people kind of gravitated to that. Oh, we're going to make money off of this somehow, and that's what a lot of people did. And it kind of ended up turning this hobby into this disregard the role play. You're there for all the pretty colors and everything. That's all we care. Put more pretty colors in front of the players and they will play. And yeah. Now you have these games that you see, buy product, gotta buy the product. Exactly. So that's kind of the perspective I'm looking at this. So you're looking at a game that was kind of the last end of an era and now going into the board game era of D&D 3rd edition. And I guess, that's where you would end up seeing it from. Of course, like I say, my perspective is a little different because it's been a bit longer and I played the older versions of D&D.
So that game specifically, I'm just saying, like, I don't get it, right?
Yeah.
But more than that, what makes a forever game? What is it? What is the aspect of the game where you go, you know what? I could play this game anytime, anywhere, for the next 40 years. Right? What is that thing? Because there's a lot of the game systems that I've looked at and I've played. Like, I played Shadow Dark. And I'm like, yeah, I can play it for like 5 to 10 sessions at most. Mm-hmm. If I'm running it, maybe a little longer, depending on how into it my players are. But most of the game systems that I have looked at so far have been game systems where I've run a few sessions in them, and I've run the sessions long enough to know my players are bored. I can tell they're bored, right? They're killing their characters. They're, hey, some of it's my fault. I'm a new DM, but some of it's they don't even care about the level up system. It's so basic. They don't care to do the homework between weeks to make their character go from level whatever to whatever. And I'm going, oh, okay, this is not interesting to them. Because I remember in 3.5 and 3rd edition D&D, when I went from level 5 to level 6 or whatever, I was, oh my goodness, I'm going to have twin shot. I've been waiting for twin shot, and I was super stoked about every advancement in that game. And, so
I would get that feeling with 2nd edition when I get a new weapon or item, or cloak, something like that. It's going to give me a new power, that sort of thing. That's that's what it was all about. You watch a movie like Crawl. What was Crawl all about? Well, he had that crazy thing that he would throw. It was like an alien frisbee that he would huck and or what is it called, a chakram or something like that. It's like one of those things that would go in the air and slice up things along the way. Well, that's what this glaive was that the main character in the story of Crawl was having. Yeah. And that was a thing. It was like, oh, that's kind of like a part of his power, is the items he wields. Thor had his Mjolnir, it would be his his hammer, Sword and Sorcerer. Remember Sword and Sorcerer? The what's his name? What was his name? He's the big dude with the big hair, and he'd have the beard for a while, and Lee Horsley, or I can't remember his exact name. But okay, so we have Lee Horsley. I think it was Mull. Richard Mull was playing the sorcerer, like big bald guy, Bull from Night Court. He was the bad guy. Guy with the sword, Lee Horsley, I guess is his name. He had 3 blades on it, and they would shoot out like missiles, like on both sides, and leave the center blade for him to use as his sword. So there's things like that. Those were, you would see these movies, you would kind of equate them to what the D&D was showing you, and it was just, a lot of these characters had these kinds of items that were to aid them. Even the story of Perseus, he's given he'll get the sword, the helm, the shield. And then he gets, the shield that would, turn, and he turn his opponents into rock or whatever, stone. And he would have the Pegasus. These are all, bestowed upon him as he goes through his quests and everything else. These are defining things that, help the character and become the character. Yeah, Frodo with his ring. What would he be without that ring? Well, his ring goes ahead and turns him invisible, although it does kind of, lock him into the, the dimensional plane of Sauron, and Sauron can spot him, But as far as, the invisibility, that's a cool thing, that's Frodo. That's another one there. Beastmaster, yeah. Beastmaster, I'm trying to remember what kind of items he had, but he was he was like a druid anyway, so he would have his his eagle that he would look, his eyes would look through. His panther, he could look through the eyes of his panther. It was interesting, things that character could do, but it would be an entirely different character, that Beastmaster, if he was a druid and he picked that he was a shapeshifter, or that he decided that it was a bear instead of the panther, or the eagle, or maybe it's a character that uses llamas instead. You can vary your character quite a bit by just swapping out some things. You don't always have to go with the, traditional, what you see is what you get, fighter, sword, no, fighter, use a, maybe it's a glaive instead, whatever. You pick and choose, all the cool things that your character is going to use, and then you pick and choose from all the loot that you got, what it is you're going to pick and choose for that. It's almost like a Diablo character, when you think about it. That's what second edition is kind of all about. But anyways,
what makes a forever game for you? You could, if you want, tell me the game, right? Like, tell me the game, but why? If you were going to have one game system that's your game forever. Like, I knew a dude last year, his game was Savage Worlds, right? I got a chance to play it with him, and I kind of understood why Savage Worlds was his forever game. I don't agree, like, it's not my forever game, but I get it, okay? So, what's your game, and why? I'm interested.
Oh, yeah. So, I kind of like Savage Worlds. I ran a Savage Worlds game, Deadlands, for a few friends of mine, and that was over the internet. But it appeals more to a person that likes cards in their games and stuff like that. Exploding dice are what they are. I mean, on a 6-sided dice, you'll never get a 6. On an 8-sided die, you'll never get an 8. On a 10-sided dice, you'll never get a 10. because what happens is when it hits at 10, you also have to roll another die, and of course it switches it to 11 or higher, or on the 10-sided dice, because you have your that extra die, right? So all these rules have a little weird things about them that are just part of their mechanics on how they work. Myself, right now, I guess would be Traveler would be my forever game if I play, because you can play medieval settings, magic settings, sci-fi settings, modern settings. The combat's really fast, deadly. It's more realistic, technically. If you're, Phil says easy D6. Yeah, if I played more, maybe if I played more of it, I might. But yeah. Traveler, I like the life path idea, because then you can have old characters play with young characters, imparting their wisdom to the younger characters, which may not have as many skills or benefits. I like that the life path kind of gives you a skeleton to work on for your background, so you can bring in enemies, friends, companions, that sort of stuff. It becomes integrated in that system, because as you go through your life path, you're meeting new people and stuff, and depending on what you rolled for your life event, you'll get more or less people that you're connected to. It's great for that kind of thing, and for a mix of like levels in a party. If you take, for instance, D&D, and you take a first level character and stick them in a group of eight level characters, 8th level characters with a first level character, there's no way that first level character is going to survive. And if the 8th level characters go into regions where the first level character is going to actually be able to kill something, it's going to be kind of boring for the level 8ers to kind of follow along and make sure their companion's alive, right? So when it comes to like introducing new characters into the group of old characters, Traveler is a bonus in that. A strong second would be the Cipher system, because you can mix the low-level Cipher system characters with the higher-level Cipher system characters, and they're still very powerful. In fact, the Cipher system makes very powerful characters right off the bat. So you'll have powers that you could use. You'll feel more like a 4th or 5th level D&D character, in a Cipher game than you would, It's just the way it works. It doesn't have any life pathing, but it does have ideas in there of anchoring yourself to other player characters, and it has really good not life pathing but pathing kind of stuff that makes good backgrounds and makes good tie-ins to other players in the group. It is the thing that got me into Cipher systems, a thing that got me into realizing co-creation is awesome. Okay. I was anti co-creation before that, but Cipher system, Numenera, got me into realizing, wow, the players can co-create and make some really cool stuff. They just have to realize that they can't go really weird, to make you go, oh, and if you got good players, they know when that happens and they'll avoid it. So, and I think one of the things, even Phil, in that last game session we had, you even made it harder for yourself by just introducing more stuff, which I thought was awesome. Awesome. Oh, we got more asteroids coming. Make the roll check, and You know, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with the co-creation. Make it harder for yourselves. Add yourself some push. It lets me know maybe I should ramp it up a bit. You know, that sort of thing. Dang debris, exactly. Yeah, I know. It was, yeah. It's once you realize what a good tool it is with the right people, you're limitless. So, that's the thing. A lot of your players could, you know, I believe you're still playing kind of the 1D 2D kind of stuff, but there's going to be a day where I'm going to grab you, family tabletop guy, and I'm going to say, "Come on in for a practice," and we're going to go through a practice. I'm going to call you out and say we got to do practice one day, because I think what you'll find when you get into this headspace that you know it you'll find that a lot of things change in your game for a lot better, and it's not hard to teach your other players. In fact, like that sheet that I had, my little handout, that's all you'd have to hand out to your players. And, you know, I was surprised at how easily that kid got it. You know, it was just like, oh, you spelled it out right here, you know. It was great. I am having a good day. Thank you. So, I'm also probably gonna respond to something here. I think there was some questions on the that was mentioned on the Discord. Let's see what we got here. But as far as the rest of this, yeah. It's basically Traveler is my go-to game. It would probably be the game that I would take to the desert island or whatever. The second reason why I like it, like besides the life pathing, is the easy mechanics. I also like having the boon bane kind of thing in there included, which is kind of a derivative off of the you know, 5th edition kind of D&D kind of idea. Adding an extra die and picking the highest of the two. You know, or, you know, 3 dice and then picking the highest of the 2 in this case. And, you know, life path, like the easy mechanics, the span of like the vast span of genre that you can cover with it. The realistic aspect of damage causes more hardship on your character. That is something that I like, instead of like D&D where you just doesn't make any difference until that lump sum is dwindled down to the last 10 hit points, and then you're concerned, right? So where D&D's like that, Traveler is not like that. It's, you know, you take points off and you're going to get lower stats, and your stats reflect on how well you do it. They're the ones that give you the bonuses to your rolls or the minuses to your rolls. So if your stats go lower than 6, they go 5 or under, you're starting at -1, -2, -3. On 2d6 it makes a big difference. I like that you can spread, you know, combine the characters together no matter how much experience they've had. They'll all work perfectly in the same environment, in the same scenario. So you don't have to, you know, worry about CR ratings or whatever. What else? There's one more thing that I really liked, but I just can't. I had it on my head, on the top of my head, but then I lost it. Old age. That's what happens to you. You start losing your mind. It'll probably pop up to me in while I'm talking about something else. But but yeah, just the ease of play. The only thing, the only thing I would do maybe to improve, I don't know. It would have to be like its own game system. If I was to put together the most perfect system, I think it would be 2d10 rolled like Traveler. And you'd have some life pathing. You make it into like a D&D type fantasy game. That could work. I would employ some ideas from Numenera into it, like mashing Numenera into a 2d10 version of Traveler. Boom, boom. We'd be rocking. So maybe it's our destiny to go ahead and make an actual 4D role-playing game. Maybe that's it. Which was the reason why I was having this Kundalini moment and doing my map and stuff like that. I thought, maybe I can get that published and turned into an actual 4D role-playing game. So maybe that's something in the future before I start losing my mind. Who knows? But yeah. Yeah, I think everybody should go ahead and do a video kind of on what their forever game would be in response to Family Tabletop Guy. Yep. Bastard Sword. Yep. And eventually Blaster Sword. Cool. So I'm glad things are moving along with that. All right. Let's get to let's remove. So if you haven't, just go ahead and subscribe to Family Tabletop if you haven't. I think most of us already have. So there was some interesting stuff going on our Discord. Let me see if I can bring it up. Stop screen on here and share screen. There we go. Let's see what we got going on here. Yeah. Yeah, there was a bunch of things popping up here, but Eli was talking about prep. And let me go down to where I start yakking here. Yeah, this is our Discord. There's a lot of people. Okay, so there are a lot of real people on this thing. So let me go back and to Eli's. This is the easiest way to go through all the little quick links here. Eli says, I think it's fine for the GM to have some story hooks and possible scenes. Just don't be married to any of them. Don't force anything. If it feels appropriate to add those things occur organically, then add it, but don't force it. In my humble opinion, I find some of the 4D game sessions to go nowhere where RP is amazing, but overall boring. Sounds more like an improv session than a story. I like the story part of the game. The same reason I watch movies, TV shows, or read books. That's right. Be right back. Going to throw on my +3 Vesta protection. So, so I was like, yeah, I mean, the only real prep that concerns me is everything that has to do with not so much stuff pertaining to the characters themselves at all. All I'm doing is I'll pick maybe 2 or 3 NPC ideas. I might have somebody who owns a castle, somebody that maybe they're like a landowner or something, right? And then maybe it's a group of, I don't know, druids or something. I have a druid grove or something. So I'll have like 3 different big NPC ideas. So then I start to conjure up, okay, so what are going to be the goals of the druids? What are going to be the goals of the castle owner? What are going to be the goals of the noble, or the landowners, or the noble? You start to get into ideas of what their goals are going to be. Some of them will be like, I want to take over the land from the castle, blah, blah, blah. Or the castle might be going, I want to take the land from the landowners. Or maybe, the druids are like, we want to go ahead and gain back all of our land and kick all these people that are, living in our former grove to go away so it can regrow back and we can bring back our sacred tree. Maybe that's our. So you're thinking of these things that these characters, your NPCs, these goals are going to try to accomplish. And that's the only thing you really need to have. Get yourself a book, write down a bunch of ideas for some areas, different like combat or interesting areas. You're going to definitely need a place for the druids. You're going to need a place for the castle owner. You're going to need a place for the landowners. You're going to have an idea of what they're going to. The landowners may be a group of like their own little suburb in this in one of the cities. So they all kind of conspire and group in one area and have their meetings and decide what they're going to do, amongst themselves. This issue with this Castellan and his desire to do things. And now you got these, all working together. Well, the players are doing their own player thing. And just the same as we are today in this world, we go about our daily things, go to work, go visit our friends and stuff like that, as we do in real life. We mix and meet each other. In the meantime, in the background, there's wars happening. There's all kinds of, wacky shit going on. There's rumors that Alberta will separate. There's rumors that Canada will split apart. There's rumors that there's, all these uprisings going on in the big, democratic parts of the U.S. against ICE. So there's big things going on there. You've got influence probably from, cults like the Mahdi or something like that. And you've got, you've got all this weird stuff going on. But in the meantime, you're just trying to do your thing, right? And it doesn't become an inconvenience until the taxes get too high or you start getting pressures from all these things. And you have to work that in as you're in your game as well. You have to start applying these pushes, the pressures of everyday life, being influenced by these. Now, if we're going back into our Castles and Crusades type game or D&D game, now you're applying that as well in the game. So it's not necessarily something that the players will be interacting with like face to face, but it would be impacting their environment. So now they're going to be seeing, raids that are happening. The druids are causing animals to come in and encroach on the newly acquired lands by the nobles. And now there's strife going on. There's going to be like some sort of war going on. There's going to be people, fires being lit up in the forest, in order to drive out the druids and that kind of stuff. Or they could go with some sort of, maybe they decide, maybe we will inquire of the nobles gather and inquire of the the particular powers of a particular sorcerer that may turn the forest against our sacrifices. And so then suddenly, babies are disappearing, and we're getting real dark here. And then, you can go as light or dark as you want, and they bring in this sorcerer, which is partially demonic, kind of. He's all messed up. He's got one eye slurred over, and he's got red skin, and he's like got almost like horns coming out of his head now because he's been so corrupted by the evil. So now he's going to conjure up something from the forest in order to defeat the Druids, and it turns into a big a massive awful thing that happens, a big disaster or something, and of course it starts impacting the players as well. You're displacing people, maybe family members, maybe suddenly the family's moving into the character's home, with uncle and his 10 kids or whatever, and now you're it's you have to make these pressures occur, and it starts becoming part of what the player is encountering, becomes eventually the NPCs in one way or another. But that's the way I kind of look at my prep. So I'll have my book with areas kind of lined up. Something I'll kind of show you here. Something that I used in the Traveler game was off of this page here, which is kind of like a condensed version of that 4D prep. So they have a listing of different locations you would find on a ship right here. So it would give you, like the laundry. There's a laundry, there's a kitchen, security decks, corridors, junctions. It gives you like little one word, items afterwards. These are precious. These things. Go ahead and write this stuff down in a book of your own. Locations, that sort of stuff. Like Phil says, he loves my video on the 4D prep on making your own book of locations, NPCs, their motivations, and their treasures, the things that people will get. Those are the three main things that the players will encounter. It's going to be treasures, NPCs, and locations. That will always happen. So depending on how clever your mind is at conjuring up what a grove of trees would look like you could instead of just a grove of trees, you can introduce like those little large standing stones, like menhirs or whatever they're called, from the Gauls, the Stonehenge kind of thingies. You start introducing different flavors into there. They could be different stones, giant stones from hundreds of miles away. How'd they get them here? All that stuff. We're glyphs on the stones, and your players are starting to add in things as well. And soft prep, exactly. So I devise a little bit of soft prep with my stuff just to make the transition little easier with the what's it called, the ad libbing, you using your what's it, improv, improving your improv. That's it, exactly. So that's what I have to say about that particular type of prep. Let's see. Yeah, and he mentions my video here. Video on how he preps and how I go about it. Okay, good. Because I think a lot of people can use this, and the unused pushes. The first time I used pushes was in the Castles and Crusades game, where I was still learning how to DM as a 4D role player. I did have how to play as a 4D role player down. It was a case of getting my ego out of the way when it comes, or super ego, I guess, out of the way when it came to me, adjudicating things on how we play. So I was feeling kind of like I'm the bad guy for making my players play a certain way, when in actuality it was that wasn't true. It's just a weird kind of self-defeating mindset you get, and you got to get past that. But yeah, this is, you got to have some form of like soft prep done for a game in order for you to, like, it may not be necessary for just like a quick one shot, but if you want to run smoother, make sure you have some sort of notes there. And everything's disposable. Never, it's your NPCs are disposable. In fact, I got rid of a whole crew in our game game on the first session of that Traveler game that fills in from our new series. So you put in stuff that are kind of like red herrings almost to kind of throw off the players a little bit too. So I like doing that a little bit. To Eli's point, there is a whole lot of improv acting lately, but not much game. Yeah. And when you and I did my training, I really felt it was still in the game. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. In order I think it's probably more important in a one shot if you want to be a good experience with a real arc. Sometimes it's hard to get it all into one whole shot. That's the thing. I think you need to apply pushes. The push is a mechanic that helps kind of bring in more action into the game, and you start rolling dice and stuff. Okay, so I did not realize that my absence has been affecting people that way. So maybe I should have been around a little bit more to go ahead and more emphasis on the push, right? But that's the way it goes. Where are we sitting at? Oh, we're almost at the end of time right now. My last 5 minutes here, I guess I got through most of everything that I was going to be talking about. I do have a couple other videos that I could get into, but they would lead on to subjects that would take a heck of a lot more time than the next 5 minutes or so. So what defines a game? Well, it's a combination, a good balance. You can't be just hucking. Let me get back here. You can't. You can't go along just. I mean, you could have just a talky kind of thing, but it would be more like a soap opera or Downton Abbey, that kind of thing, where it's a lot of people kind of basically cursing each other and hoping the curse would stick, and then it'd be the S word. That is the story ends up being the end result. The story does not happen until story is a thing that happens when you're playing. Okay? Because a story is just a sequence of actions. When you honestly think about it and how those actions are going and the reactions, that's how it ends up. You're creating something that you can then go ahead and at the end of the session go ahead and say, wow, that was a cool tale about a hero that did this and that and lost his arm and managed to still come up in the end and rescue the princess in the end. How wonderful. Okay. The game master never planned that or anything. Perhaps it came up through improv that the character needed to find the princess, or it just happened through the circumstances of what was occurring. Your intention as a game master wasn't to have the princess be kidnapped and everything, but that was kind of plan D from maybe one of the NPCs that once they had ran out of ideas on how to go ahead and force the people to go ahead and see his way, was to go ahead and finally kidnap the princess. But that is all, what occurs in the game. So it's, yep. Yep. The balance. Yes. As many ways as there is to imply a push, there is ways to alleviate the push. Okay, so never worry about adding too much push. So say, for example, you have the characters, they're in a dungeon, okay? Group of characters, they're in a dungeon, and they're doing their things. They're going to get ready to go ahead and open up this chest. So, as a game master, you tell the thief, roll for success, or is trying to tinker around with the chest. He rolls badly. Boom. We have a timer. You indicate to the players. They hear a ticking sound coming from the chest. Okay. Now, introduce the goblins coming from secret traps, entrances from the ceiling. They start coming down and start attacking the players, right? Okay, now it's pressure. How do you alleviate a pressure if things are feeling a little bit too much? Well, you could introduce maybe something that comes in and starts eating the goblins as well. So now you're, sharing the burden with some sort of glibbering mouther that comes in, hearing the ruckus going on and starts grabbing the goblins and, noshing on them. And, it's the way you just, it alleviates the goblin problem, but now they have a glibbering mouther problem. But in the meantime, it could give them a little, your party a little bit more wiggle room to figure out what that tick-tocking is going on in your chest, and now you've relieved them a little bit of the burden, but they know something else is going to be, like glibbering mouth, or once it's done, it's going to start player characters, start eating them. So, anyways. It's easier to get rid of pushes. So, but, you always make it so that, they're going to have to confront something at the end anyways, right? So, glibbering mouther now instead of, the goblins. One creature instead of, many. You're the game master. You decide on how your game's going to go. And it just pick a genre, kind of get an idea of how a movie played out, before you, be it, Sorcerer in the Stone or, Crawl, whatever. Just pull out ideas from these different things, how they do pushes, once you discover how pushes work. It's a much better thing than having just a random encounter. So that's all I have to say. You guys have been awesome. Thank you guys for attending. I have 30 viewers right now. It's crazy. Okay, appreciate all you guys. Please subscribe if you haven't, or ask questions. Ask questions. Even not what's the chat is shut down. Still ask questions down below. Like, it's all cool. I'm good with either bad criticism or good criticism. It's cool. I criticize myself more than anything. So I'm used to criticizing. Hey, you guys are awesome. Thanks again for showing up and enjoying my live stream. Once again, it's just for you guys to start asking questions, or I'll go through the Discord and find interesting things, or find interesting posts on YouTube by some of our members, like Tabletop Family Guy, Family Tabletop. So I'll put a link in the description once we're offline here. But that's it. Thanks again.
All right, if you've made it this far in the video and you feel like you want to go ahead and punch that subscribe button, we're learning stuff, I'm learning stuff, let's all learn together.
Subscribe now. Subscribe to 28mm RPG, subscribe to Big Bad RPG, and subscribe to Table Runner 3.
Thanks for joining us. Keep an eye out for our next upload. We'll look forward to having you on the next one. Bye.